last November, the end of October, you couldn't find things that were expensive, that were cheap. Now you can't find things that are expensive. You can't find anything that's expensive. And so if I had more money to invest, I would invest it. I'm invested.
You're fully invested.
Yeah.
This video, Billionaire hang on, sorry, Billionaire bad? Billionaire bad. Because if they have something, they took it from me. They didn't, okay, right, okay, cool, yeah. In this video, big bad billionaire Ron Barron, who has decades of investment experience in taking money away from other people, because if he has something, he took it from me, says it's a great time to be buying stocks because everything's on sale. Barron also shares loads of investing wisdom and has some thoughts on Elon Musk's Twitter takeover. Take notes, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, let's get the ball rolling straight away. Point number 1, jot this one down. Join Stephen's Patreon or regret it for the rest of my life with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment. It is inevitable you're eventually going to join anyway, so you may as well put yourself out of the misery. And on that note, again, huge shout out and a special thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel for a long time or has recently joined Patreon. A lot of people complaining I'm posting too much content they can't keep up. Tough problem to have. The Patreon page is absolutely flying up the ranks. Now number 133 globally. Over 6,500 people now supporting the channel on Patreon. I mean, I did tell you guys I was going to take over, and well, I mean, I'm a man of my word.
Tom Pritzker is my friend, and he's the head of Hyatt Corporation. And he says to me a few weeks ago, he says, you know, Ron, I've been trying to figure out for a long time how you do this. How does this happen? And how do you pick stocks? And then he says, I figured it out. What you do is you try to find people who you really like, who you really admire, who you think are great leaders, you like integrity. You can trust them.
I believe this is a highly underrated point. I'm sure you've heard many people talk about investing in the person rather than the company. And Elon Musk is a great example of this. The guy's got a track record. He's honest AF, often to the detriment of his company's stock price, perception, how shareholders feel toward the guy. He's saying, oh, hey guys, here's the thing we did, here's a mistake we made, here's a problem we're having. Honest, almost to a fault, which is exactly what you want. Fully transparent. Elon Musk is the very definition of integrity and honesty. The Tesla convergence would have you believe otherwise. But hey, they live in their own world of self-created delusion. They see what they want to see. Truthfully, it's just a reflection of what they see in themselves projected outward. But it's important to understand this. The character, the values, and the track record of a leader, of a company that you're investing in really matters. Of course, it'd be far too easy to bring up Trevor Meltdown Milton and his track record before starting Nikola. I think that's what it's called. You know, the real world truck company with the real world renderings of the real world products they really intended on actually really producing. I'm going to go out on a limb here, a highly relevant example to most people watching. I believe that 99% of the people who are currently short Tesla stock, of which 100% currently reside in their mother's basement, and 100% of which have never even seen a tit in real life, let alone touched one. If these guys, and I do mean guys exclusively, I don't think there's a woman on earth living in her mum's basement who's an adult virgin who's also short Tesla stock. I think it's exclusively a male form of mental illness. I don't think a single one of these men, actually men's probably not the man children, not a single one of these man children would be short Tesla stock if they were accurately able to assess Elon Musk as a person. Who is he? What are his values? Is he honest? Is he ethical? In which direction does his moral compass point? Is he trying to do good? Can I trust this guy? I don't think a single one of these man children would be short Tesla stock if they were able to accurately assess Elon Musk. And there is an important lesson here. Some people just have a broken ass fucking radar and they just cannot assess people for who they really are. But if you find somebody with this level of integrity, capability, honesty, and execution, their track record is immaculate, you might be onto a winner. For those who don't know, I've been following the plight, the escapades of Elon Musk since the founding of SpaceX. Why would that be? I'm an OG space nerd and an OG internet user, and I heard about this fucking crazy guy that made some money and started a space company and thought, what an idiot. Let me watch these rockets blow up. So I've been watching Elon Musk from afar for approximately 2 decades, and I've built up a wealth of knowledge and information and also a very clear perception of who the guy is. And this has really served me well when it comes to investing. In the back of my mind, when I began loading up on Tesla stock, which has always comprised the vast majority of my stock portfolio, over the years, I dumped some other shares, bought more Tesla, and I've been all in on Tesla stock now for a few years. Part of my reasoning when investing so aggressively in this company wasn't just their future prospects. It was about Elon's track record, his history, his dedication, his work ethic, his focus, his execution, and his absolute radical transparency. Highly underrated point. There's some people you can trust, there's some people you can't trust. The big key is being able to know which is which. And spoiler alert, just gonna put my armchair psychologist hat and I await the comments from the actual psychologist going, God damn, you did it again, dude. You're actually pretty good for somebody who isn't qualified as a psychologist. You know what I think? The majority of people who see people that they believe they can't trust actually are projecting out with the fact that they know that others can't trust them. Is it true? It's true. Most people, I believe, who find themselves to be untrustworthy, unreliable, dark, negative, nasty, toxic people see those exact same traits in others. Usually the exact people in which those traits are entirely absent. Seems to be a strange fact of human psychology. The worst of us see things in others that simply are not there.
And then you invest in it, and then you find out a way to invest with them. If you like the person, you figure out some way to invest with them. That's what you do. And I think about that, and that is what we do. We try to find, and it goes back to when I was a kid, and I watched the people who were most successful in Asbury Park. And one guy owned the rides on the boardwalk. You know, and so there's a platform, so people go to the boardwalk and they buy the rides, or they play the Cupid dolls, or they had the umbrella franchise, or or the suntan franchise when I was selling on the beach when I'm a lifeguard. So I see these things, and my whole life it's the people who. My grandfather, we started off as a construction worker, then he was a peddler, then he owned a candy store. He didn't sell the candy store when things weren't going well. He just figured out, I'll put more pink balls in there so that they can bounce the penny on the street. So it's about just being long-term about everything. And the people who've done the best that I've watched have done, just invested for the long term in businesses, and that takes you through the inflation. Oh, one more thing. About a week ago, there was an article in the New York Times over the weekend interviewing 6 or 7 money managers about what they thought. And everyone said, well, we have to wait till inflation peaks and we have to wait till interest rates start going down. Except for one guy, that was Lloyd Blankfein. And he says that we're going to get through this. He says in 1963, we were stopping the Cuban Missile Crisis. We were stopping Russian ships in mid-ocean. And they were putting missiles in Cuba. We got through that. They had National Guards shooting kids on campuses. We got through that. So we've had periodically, we had assassinations of political leaders. We got through that. So there's all these things that happen all the time.
So it sounds like what Ron's saying here is when people think it's the end of the world, so far they've always been wrong. And speaking of the end of the world and being wrong, would this be an inappropriate time or an appropriate time to roast the dumb motherfuckers who literally thought it was the end of the world about 2.5 years ago when the plague first broke out and the fake news was telling everybody it's actually the end of the world? Because at the exact same time that people were literally writing in the comments say, oh my god bro, you don't have any, you're an idiot, it's wrong, I sold everything, I sold my Tesla buyback when it's worth $1 per share. There was a lot of them. I was getting roasted left, right and fucking center on YouTube here because I'm like, hey fuck faces, it's not the end of the world, here's how things are going to play out. And they did play out. Yeah, you know what, it would be inappropriate. I don't want to kick a dumbass when they're down. So I'm also definitely not going to bring up the recent recurrence of this exact same line of thinking or lack thereof. Oh, the war in Ukraine, fuck, it's the end of the world, World War III, sell everything or buy back Tesla stock $140 per share because technical analysis makes sense. Now, I don't want anyone to get confused here. The point isn't that stocks can't go down when there's turmoil globally. Generally speaking, that is exactly the what happens. The point instead is that if you have a long-term investment horizon and a brain, instead of panicking, oh, it's going to go even lower, I'm going to sell or buy back even cheaper, you might be thinking, oh shit, son, where's that mop and bucket? It's time for me to clean the fuck up. So as intelligent investors are loading up on bargains of the century, unintelligent investors are selling those exact same stocks at record discounts to the people who A, have a brain, and B, a long-term investment horizon, and C, will ultimately create large amounts of wealth, in my opinion. God damn, I'm obnoxious. And don't get me wrong here. If you have a time machine, a crystal ball, and a flawless track record of predicting the future before it occurs, you can make a lot of money selling stocks even on the way down and buy them back even cheaper. Sometimes it works out, but in the long run, almost universally, the people that try to outsmart the stock market, instead of seeing bargains going shit, time to go shopping, go, oh, it's probably going to go lower, I want an even bigger discount. Over the long term, short-term gamblers, generally speaking, get completely and utterly fucked. Over the long run, it seems like most short-term emotional stock gamblers, generally speaking, lose out to long-term rational investors. Not always, but I'm here to talk about rules, not the exception.
On the other hand, in entropy, it's this chaos. Whenever we've had it before, we've come through, and the stock market is 800, as we talked before, in 1982. It's now 32,000, 40 times.
Are you putting more money to work right now because you can find more opportunities because prices have come down, or is this a situation where you literally just keep your head down and it's business as usual?
In last November, the end of October, you couldn't find things that were expensive, that were cheap.
They were cheap.
Now you can't find things that are expensive. You can't find anything that's expensive. And so if I had more money to invest, I would invest it. I'm invested.
You're fully invested.
Yeah.
Makes two of us, Ron. What a shame. Still buying Tesla stock with every spare cent rather than waiting for Tesla stock to dip and then it not dipping and then me chasing after it. Shout out to my 2019 video, waiting for Tesla stock to dip. Good luck, dumbass. Which has aged pretty well. But Stephen, it did dip. It's still up like 10 times since I posted that video. The point was, if you wait for Tesla stock to dip, it might work out, but I'd rather be right than maybe be right.
And, we get more money, but in chunks. And so as soon as we get it, we invest it. But I find things everywhere. And that doesn't mean this is the bottom. It just means this is a great time to invest.
Wise words from a wise, very experienced investor. Kind of makes me just something best risk-adjusted opportunity in the stock market that I'm aware of. Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
In the 1970s, when I was investing at the beginning and there was a lot of inflation at that period of time, I couldn't understand. The stock market kept going down. I couldn't understand it. I said, these businesses in which I'm investing, what they own keeps getting more valuable, and every day the stocks go down.
I kind of feel like Ron's maybe talking directly to every single person watching this video right now. I don't know why, for some strange, totally irrelevant, unrelated reason, I swear, Tesla's stock over the last 1 year currently appears on screen, down nearly 50% despite near flawless execution. How interesting. Kind of also reminds me of that point in 2014 where people could have been buying Tesla stock and then 5.5 years later they could have been down around 20%. Tesla's execution during this time was completely uncorrelated to Tesla's stock price. Sometimes this happens. It's called a gigantic gaping disconnect, a huge gap between perception and reality. Never makes logical sense and eventually ends up getting back to normal, but there are periods of time, sometimes more than half a decade, where shit like this actually happens. Of course, investors who can see through the noise and think rather than emote might see opportunity. And again, for some totally unrelated reason, I don't know why, the Tesla 1 year stock price has just appeared up on screen again, confirming that it's down nearly 50% over the last 12 months. Yes, that's right. Tesla's market cap, as I record this, $650 billion in November 2022. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Why is that? And of course it ended, but in the 1970s, even though the stock market was going down, the businesses in which we're investing, so I'm a stockbroker, I'm selling research that I'm doing to hedge funds and mutual funds, and in the 1970s, the ideas that I'm selling, they're making money because the companies that we're investing in, they kept growing through it all. It was Disney and McDonald's and Federal Express and Nike and Mattel and Hyatt. So they kept growing, and Tropicana. And so my clients, I wouldn't have been able to make a living if I was just being a long-term investor in the 1970s. I needed commissions. And so I would get people to buy one stock, and then they'd double or triple, and then they would sell it, and then to buy my next idea. So sell Nike, to buy Hyatt, And what would happen is that I look back after 10 years and 15 years, I said, man, I'm a disaster. Look at all those companies that I recommended selling, and look what happened. I could have been rich. They were up, I recommended they doubled or tripled or, and they're up 30 times, 20 times, 50 times. So that's what happened. That's how I became a long-term investor.
So there's two ways you can learn from mistakes, either by making your own or learning from those others have made. I'm a big fan of learning from mistakes other people have made rather than making them myself. And don't get me wrong, I still make plenty of mistakes. But when it comes to investing, 10 years ago, when I really got serious about real estate investing, I started organizing and attending property investor meetups. And the very first question I asked everyone in the room, especially those who looked like they'd been investing for a while, a little bit grayer and a little bit more wrinkly than the rest of us, I asked them one simple question. What is your biggest regret? The biggest mistake you've made when it comes to investing? You want to know what every single motherfucker said? All of them, without exception, when I asked this question, something along the lines of, well, I bought a piece of real estate back in blah blah. I paid blah blah, and then it tripled, so I sold it, made a big profit, and now it's worth 25 times what I paid for it. I wish I'd kept it. Next person, exact same fucking shit. Man, I sold this thing because I made a big profit, but now it's worth so much more. It would have been better if I just kept it. So I thought, all these people regret selling real estate, so maybe I just will buy it and not sell it, and then I won't have regrets. Bought my first piece of real estate in 2010, the second in 2013, then another in 2014, another in 2015. And of those pieces of real estate, exactly how many have I since sold? None. No regrets. Now onto the topic of the day, Twitter.
Well, speaking of Twitter, there's an article in the New York Times today that suggests layoffs are going to begin starting today, and it's going to be layoffs of around 3,000 or so people, maybe up to 50% of the staff there. You're an investor.
I thought it said 3,700.
3,700.
And there are 7,500 employees. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people there that aren't very productive. They work from home.
Can you believe this guy suggesting there's people at Twitter that don't really do much, aren't really pulling their weight, especially those that are working from home? Can you imagine this guy? What does he know about hard work?
They haven't written very much code. I'm not the expert in Twitter yet. I will be in a couple of years, maybe sooner than that, but I'm not yet. And I think that the first thing you got to do is right-size the business, and then the opportunities they have are gigantic. This is the place where you have content. It's other places you go to look at people's faces and their kids and stuff. Here you go to he wants to have a digital town hall, digital town center, where you can debate. But you have to make sure that you moderate and you don't have hate speech on there. You don't have. There was something that was published a couple of days ago that said in the first time, as soon as he took it over, there were 50,000 tweets in 2 or 3 days with using the N-word.
Yes.
Or using anti-Semitic tropes. In 2 or 3 days, there were 300 accounts. So 300 accounts.
They were troll accounts that were
right.
trying to see what they could get away with. Yeah.
And so you don't want that. You want to have a verification of accounts for $8 a person, and you can verify, and then they can amplify your what you want to say and who you can reach.
I mean, he has made the statement to assuage advertisers that he doesn't want it to be a hellscape. He's been clear about that, but I think there are advertisers who have questions and concerns. There was another story today, I don't know if it was the Wall Street Journal, that just talked about General Mills, Volkswagen, a lot of different companies, potentially L'Oreal, that are looking at Mondelez and Pfizer. Those are some of the other ones that are pausing their ads on Twitter right now. Do you think that he's going to run it in a way that will bring those advertisers back and convince them that this is where they want to be?
Spoiler alert, in the short term, these pathetic virtue signaling, ultra-woke corporations trying to show their consumers that we're a great brand because we support the current thing, and the current thing is Elon Musk is bad, therefore fuck Elon Musk, we're going to pull advertising. In the short term, it'd be great if these companies continue to advertise on Twitter because they are highly dependent on advertising revenue to avoid currently going bankrupt. But this soon will change. This is the perfect time to leak Twitter's secret master plan. Don't tell anyone. So as most of you will know, I'm actually a paid Tesla shill. I'm on Tesla's payroll. I am confirming, yes, Tesla Q virgins, it's on the record. This is my confession. Tesla does pay me to say things about Tesla that are positive. It's my job. I'm a Tesla stock fluffer. It's 100% true. I guarantee. This is not sarcasm. Definitely not sarcasm. And I know you know it's not sarcasm because you're really good at judging sarcasm and character and integrity and all sorts of other traits in people, so you understand this is very true. It just so happens that Elon Musk has leaked Twitter's secret master plan to me, and I very irresponsibly posted this publicly. Anyway, let's read this secret plan that's now no longer secret. 1. Allow people to freely share thoughts, opinions, ideas, and information. 2. Allow community to add relevant context and notes. 3. While doing so, and this is the important part, end dependence on advertising revenue so no one has Twitter by the balls. And 4. Win. And some troll impersonating Elon Musk replied to this, accurate, which obviously proves nothing because that's not the real Elon, is it? It's just an impersonator. It happened again. How awkward. I kind of said a thing was true and then Elon said, yep, got it. Number 3 is the important part here. Twitter is currently dependent on advertisers. Advertisers currently have Twitter by the balls. Elon Musk will work to make sure this is no longer true ASAP.
I do, but I think that this is not just about money. And when you're talking about someone who's worth whatever he's worth, and going to be worth multiples of that in the future, trillions.
He ain't wrong. I mean, it's already a fucking fact. It hasn't happened yet, but it's inevitable. Elon Musk will certainly be the world's first trillionaire and likely the first multi-trillionaire, and it'll keep going from there. Add massive value, reap rewards. It's almost like this guy's had this master plan the entire time. Solve huge problems, add enormous value, accrue enormous wealth, use said wealth to colonize Mars. I think it's safe to say at this point, things are going to plan.
And you're talking about $20 billion. To everyone in the world, it's a lot of money, but for him, it's not relevant. And what he's doing, his goal is not just to make a huge amount of money. His goal is to help democracy.
Spot fucking on. Ron Barron gets it. It's almost like this guy is not a moron. As I've said in the past, we should really view this Twitter acquisition primarily, first and foremost, as an act of philanthropy. This is necessary for functioning democracy. Of course, as I've said, Elon is not a moron. He's going to ensure this company prints money so it can be self-sustaining because that's necessary to ensure the mission of upholding the principles of free speech. This is why I was so adamant Elon Musk would close this deal. I initially thought he'd negotiate a lower price. Next minute, war in Ukraine. Next minute, Elon goes, you know what? Nah, f*** it. I'll just pay the original price even though they're probably f***ing me over the bots because this is so important. I don't mind throwing away a few extra billions of dollars just to ensure I can buy this dumpster fire of a company and begin allowing people to freely share their thoughts, opinions, and ideas without fear of being permanently banned from the interwebs and also fired. You do support the current thing, right?
And you help democracy, you don't help democracy. And he says the only way this works is that if a lot of speech that takes place there is stuff that he doesn't like. He says you don't want to hear it. But on the other hand, that's what democracy is. You argue about things.
Are you telling me that this big bad billionaire believes The democracy includes people being able to engage in discussion, debate, to argue points and ideas, rather than to fact check, delete, cancel, censor, and deplatform. I feel extremely unsafe right now. We're not going to allow other people to share their dangerous opinions, their unacceptable ideas. I mean, after all, haven't you heard? Free speech is the threat to democracy. Just ask the Ministry of Truth. So let's recap. According to Ron Barron, who has no experience, especially when it comes to investing, and therefore you should completely ignore everything he says, everything's on sale right now. Bargains left, right, and f***ing center. If he had more money, he'd be loading up, but he's already fully invested. Ron also has a huge amount of faith in Elon's Twitter turnaround plan. He's adamant Elon will be a multi-trillionaire in the future. And on the topic of freely sharing one's thoughts, opinions, and ideas, that is exactly what I do over on Patreon. Completely unfiltered, which cannot be said for what you see here on YouTube. If you haven't caved in, today's finally the day. Join Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment. So, see you over on Patreon. And remember, the clock's ticking. Love ya.